Now, story number two. Kendrick Lamar's GNX continues to ruffle snowflake feathers. The opening track on that project is called Whacked Out Murals. It's probably the most discussed song on the album. You know, it's the one where, truthfully, it's kind of his first response to anyone around this battle. And, you know, he names Snoop and he names Lil Wayne, and he leaves a lot of subs, a lot of open-ended questions all over it. And there's a line at the end of the second verse, the last verse, where he says, "Don't let no white comedian talk about no black woman, that's law. I know propaganda work for them, and F whoever that's close to them. The hit is that coon and the hit is that's being groomed, slide on both of them." I love that part, actually. 1 second, applause. Now, speculation is that Kendrick was referring to Andrew Schulz because Schulz on his podcast joked about how white men who date black women need to grow beards because black women are abusive.
Stop it. Get some help.
Now, initially, Academics was the first one to report Schulz's response to this. Okay, so here's a clip of what Academics said that Schulz said in response to that line right after the album dropped.
I hit Andrew Schulz about that. I think his reaction was, he's like, yo, is this guy too woke to understand a joke? And I said,
too woke to tell a joke, man. Now, when I heard that, that sounded to me like he called Kendrick nigga. That's what it sounded like to me. I mean, the way the right has weaponized a 100-year term of unity and awareness and flipped it against marginalized communities is a travesty. It hurts my heart that they've been able to do that so effectively. So whatever woke used to mean, today it means nigga, right? And that is the dog whistle Schulz tossed at Kendrick. Is he too woke to tell a joke? This nigga don't laugh. Ugh, it was disgusting to me. That was my first reaction to it. Now, this week on his podcast, he clapped back again, right? Dove back into that well and dropped a whole bunch of low-level whataboutism, flaccid talking points that essentially add up to, what about black-on-black crime? What about, well, you guys say nigga, how come I can't say nigga? You know, that kind of thing. It's very old, very unoriginal, but that's, you know, that's Andrew Schulz. And before, he did all that before he dove into super weird territory. Super weird, just weird, objectively weird territory. Okay, here's a clip.
Like, first of all, Kendrick's people and the gang affiliate, you know, everybody, his security, they will kill me. They will destroy me. They'll find me in the street. They'll fucking cut me up. They'll shoot me. They'll do whatever. I'm not a tough guy. Y'all do. But just Kendrick, I would make love to him. And there's nothing he could do about it. Just Kendrick Lamar, I would make love to him. And the only thing that he could do is decide if it's consensual or not. That's the only thing he could do. If it's me and Kendrick, this is about physics. It's about physics. I don't even know if I'll get hard. But if we're in a cell, there's a chance that
Stop it. Get some help.
If we're in a cell and we're bored and we done tattooing each other, whatever you do in the cell, and we ran out of board games and we did all the other things, we cleaned everything, and I'm like, man, I might as well fuck you. There's nothing he could physically do to stop that besides put his legs in the air and choose a position. Maybe Mark, I'll let him choose a position.
Why are you pulling this picture up, Mark? Why are you doing this?
Put up that picture of him and Travis Kelce's girl. Look at that shit.
Oh my God, dude, that's unbelievable.
Yo, I'll be honest. I would go so far as to say, I don't think he could stop most people on the planet from having sex with him.
Stop it. Get some help.
Like, the only reason he got security is to stop people from having sex with him whenever he wants. Now, don't get me wrong, there's people who could fuck me against my will. I was in an elevator once with this drag queen, and this motherfucker was like 6'5".
Oh, yeah.
And we're in the elevator, and we're going down. I'm like, yo, if he wanted to take it, I gotta cause a ruckus or something like that. Like,
stop it. Get some help.
He's talking a lot of shit, but if it came down to it, I could put him on my lap. I could feed him a bottle. I could put him on my lap. I could feed him a bottle and make love to him if I wanted to, and there's nothing he could do about it. I might not be hard. Dick might just slap soft against his butt. I could be romantic with him, and there's nothing he could do about it, to the point, like, I think I'm so charming, he would just fall into it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think he would just be so charmed. He would be like, damn, like, whap, 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 whap. Let me suck it up. You want to talk about another album called Damn. Be humble. Sit down. Reincarnated. Ask I penetrated.
Weird.
Listen, but in all seriousness, we love Kendrick Lamar, our woke king. And I think we're gonna do our best to abide by his. I don't know what his rules are about, like, me having sex with him if we're in a room together.
Stop it. Get some help.
Weird. Hey, called him nigga again on the way out. I don't care what nobody says. That's what woke means in today's society. That's exactly what it means in today's society. I think everybody kind of knows that. They like to play blind. They like to play ignorant. They like to play obtuse. They know what they're doing. Either way, this is the perfect example of a self-important hit dog hollering. You know what I mean? Like, when I first saw that line, there was literally a gaggle of white comedians I thought this could have fit. I thought it could have fit, right? Dot didn't name drop Schulz. He mentioned something that isn't even unique to Schulz. It's not. It's a commonality in right-wing comedy, or as I call it, bootlicking, down-punching, pseudo-humor. 1 second applause. Fox News, for example, Greg Gutfeld specializes in this. That's what I thought he was talking about. I thought this was another reference to Fox News, to be honest. That's what I thought, just like he did on Damn. Right? Remember this? This is where Kendrick Lamar sampled Fox News on Damn, you know, because Geraldo, just like Andrew Schulz, went on Fox after Kendrick performed at the BET Awards, after he performed All Right. Geraldo said, hip-hop has done more for damage to young African Americans than racism in recent years, right? It's one of those things. This is a very lazy position. This is a very disingenuous, obtuse position. I thought it was something about that because Greg Gutfeld is always doing the same thing. For those of you who aren't familiar, here's an example of Greg Gutfeld. This is just what they do.
And finally, Michelle was so embarrassed, she changed her name back to Mike.
Yeah, I mean, there it is, right? Michelle Obama's a man. They do this all the time. This is their brand of humor. You know, the Venn diagram between Drake fans and people supporting Andrew Schultz's comments is a circle. It's the same people who treat Drizzy as some sort of victim because he lost a dirty rap battle that he was the first one to muddy. It's the same people who see filing legal action against UMG for defamation as some sort of altruistic stance against a predatory industry, dismissing the fact that Drake is the biggest beneficiary of that predatory industry and the first to defame in this back and forth. And I can see it. I can understand how it's so easy for them to justify. I mean, it's like in their mind, if Kendrick gets to call Drizzy a PDF because Drizzy defamed Whitney and said she was a battered whore, then it's only fair that Andrew Schulz gets to grape Kendrick. It makes sense in that world because that's how victim mentality works. You forget whatever we did to start this. The fact that we're feeling this pain is the same everywhere else. I mean, it's all gross, but in their world, Schultz's comments are justified regardless of the debasing, weird comedy that he specializes in. I mean, but that population is much bigger than just a population paying attention to rap beef. I mean, that's the same population that actually believes Trump when he says he's going to drain the swamp, or that population tends to think that there's a difference between Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, right? Or that somehow thinks their lives will improve if Elon privatizes government, or that women only have value if they're barefoot and pregnant, or like that tariffs are going to fatten their Cash App accounts. You know what I mean? Like, this is the same people who believe affirmative action was bad, but white people deserve reparations for DEI. I mean, this is the same population that weaponized the word woke, turned woke into a dog whistle for nigga. It's the same population that listens to Tom McDonald.
Weird.
Look, the oligarchy is undefeated at pipping angry white men in this country, redirecting their rage to populations with the least amount of power. And bootlicking pseudo-humorists lather themselves in that base, attacking anyone or anything actually raging against the machine, just like they always have. I mean, the late, great George Carlin breaks it down well. This is what he said on Larry King Tonight.
I would defend to the death his right to do everything he does. The thing that I find unusual, and it's not a criticism so much, but his targets are underdogs. And comedy traditionally has picked on people in power, people who abuse their power. Women and gays and immigrants are kind of, to my way of thinking, underdogs. And, he ought to be careful because he's Jewish. And a lot of the people who want to pick on these kind of groups, the Jews are on that list a little further. You got women, gays, gypsies, blah, 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 and suddenly you find Jews. And Andrew,
Suddenly Andrew's arrested.
Yeah, so, obviously he should do what he wants. And
why does he get away with it, do you think, then?
Well,
we
because
have never laughed at jokes about the
Well,
poor.
he's appealing. I think he's appealing largely. I think his core audience are young white males who are threatened by these groups. I think a lot of these guys aren't sure of their manhood because that's a problem when you're going in through adolescence. Am I really? Could I be? I hope I'm not one of them. And the women who assert themselves and are competent are a threat to these men, and so are immigrants in terms of jobs and the
So that's why we as an audience then will laugh.
You say we. I don't think you're.
No.
But I think you're
collective we.
I think that's what is at the core of that experience that takes place in these arenas. Is a certain, a sharing of anger and rage at these targets. And I'm sure Andrew isn't that angry at them. I'm sure he's playing it as a comic.
Listen to that last part one more time.
At these targets. And I'm sure Andrew isn't that angry at them. I'm sure he's playing it as a comic.
I'm sure Andrew's playing them as a comic, a grifter. Now, if you don't know who he's talking about Andrew Dice Clay. If you don't know who Andrew Dice Clay is, he's an old dusty comedian that got no laughs in any of the communities that I've ever been a part of. I don't know where Andrew Dice Clay sits in the pantheon of history's greatest comedians, but I know he's nowhere near George Carlin. George Carlin was an icon with foresight and insight who made people laugh by telling the truth and empowering people and opening their eyes to who the real enemy is, to how the chips are really stacked against us. Okay, Andrew Dice Clay is nowhere near George Carlin. And neither is Andrew Schulz. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom bapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.